few years ago, I was a university student in Eastern Washington, but dating a girl in Western Washington. I was visiting her for the weekend during the summer when we got into a huge fight around midnight, and I ended up leaving. I decided to head back to my apartment, and I mention this for context as to why I was driving through the pass after 1 in the morning. So, I'd never really gone through this pass so late before, and what is usually a very busy stretch of freeway on I-90 was completely empty at this time. I went well over an hour without seeing a single vehicle going either way, so naturally I was driving way too fast. At the time I had a 73 Chevy Nova. It wasn't quite the classic, but it had power and a complete lack of AC. Even though it was late at night, and the combination of a warm summer night and the large amount of heat that bleeds through some of the engine meant that I had my windows down, and I was still sweating. Not far into the east side of the mountains, around 1:30 I would guess, I hit a long stretch of straight road that doesn't really have an on-ramp or way to get into the freeway. And suddenly a set of headlights appeared behind me, something like maybe 200 feet back. I sort of glanced back at the lights, puzzled as to where that vehicle could have possibly come from. I noticed that despite the fact that I was absolutely hauling the lights, they were gaining on me. I decided to switch lanes and slow down a bit so it could pass. After a moment, the vehicle, now only half that distance, moved over behind me into the same lane. This is also when I began to panic. I mean, I'm in the middle of nowhere, hadn't seen another vehicle in over an hour, and now I've got some aggressive driver running up on me. I watched too as those lights got closer. 60 feet, 50 feet, 40. In seconds it was upon me. It got so close too that I even braced against the steering wheel, expecting to get rear-ended by the vehicle, going much faster than me now. I watched in my rearview mirror in horror as those headlights blasted right into the back of my vehicle, and suddenly everything just froze. Like, quite literally. Nothing physically hit me, but the whole vehicle frosted over, and I could now see my breath. I hit the brakes, and I did my best to pull over despite not being able to see through the windshield. And every hair on my body was now standing on end. I got out of my vehicle and paced back and forth, examining my car, which was already starting to defrost as steams of water poured down it. There was no damage to my back bumper that I could see, and absolutely no sign of whatever vehicle had hit me. Eventually, I calmed down enough to get back into the car and drive the rest of the way back up, wake my roommates, and explain what just happened. The next time that I drove through that area in the daylight, right about where I think the ghost car had actually hit me, there, sitting on the side of the road, was a very old wooden cross, somewhat overgrown, that had been there for some time.
Follow for more stories.